Hi, we are now here with Shad. Thank you very much for having us. How you liking Montreal so far?
Oh, it's great. Just got in, but Montreal is a city everyone in Canada loves, Super fun, culturally very interesting, so glad to be here.
Awesome, we're so happy to have you. First of all, let's talk about your album that you just released, Flying Colors. Tell us about your vision behind producing it. How was it?
Yeah, it was a real joy to get to work on that album. It's my fourth one. So, starting out, I never thought I'd get to be making a fourth album, so it was a real pleasure. And I just really wanted to work hard and make something meaningful, and I got a chance to do that, so I'm very grateful.
Awesome, and why Flying Colors? Why the title?
Passing with flying colors is the phrase from which it comes. I knew I wanted to talk about success and failure and the different dimensions of those concepts, and I like the idea of flying colors, the idea that we're all doing well in the grand scheme. We're all doing our best.
And you have a single on this album called Fam Jam where you touch upon being an immigrant and your family background. How do you think your family background has influenced you as a musician and your music?
As a musician, probably more than my music. So I think by that I mean, my family's shaped my perspective in general on life, which affects how I do my work. So I would say it's shaped me more as a musician than my actual music. So Fam Jam is actually the first song where I've ever incorporated African music. There's been references to my culture in my lyrics, but I've never actually referenced it musically.
I want to speak about your single Stylin'. There is a line where you talk about people saying to you, "Oh, I like you, but I don't necessarily like, what you do, which is hip hop." And I was just wondering, in your opinion, why do you think that the mainstream culture of and genre of rap does not get as much credit and does not get legitimized as requiring a lot of talent or skill to excel in?
People have a different understanding of music. I understand why people from the outside looking in see rappers or see DJs and don't necessarily understand musically what's happening, right? But that's a different understanding of music and musicality. It's cultural understanding has less to do with the technical, the physical task of playing an instrument, and has more to do with expressing something like joy and communicating something more essential, more fundamental, more purely musical. To me, is how I understand music. You can do that as a guitar player. You can do it as a pianist. You can do that as someone using rap, rhythmic poetry. You can do that as someone just playing records for somebody. So I think it's a different understanding of music, is where it comes from.
How is it breaking out onto the American rap scene? Are you pigeonholed as the Canadian rapper?
Yeah, I think that's people's first idea of who I am. But those in hip hop, regionality used to be a big deal, and it's less of a big deal now. There was a time where it was because hip hop is not very old, right? Late 70s, you're talking about New York and only New York. So from there, it spread everywhere in the world, but that happened slowly, right? So regionality was a big deal. It was there was New York, then there was New York and LA, then there was New York, LA, and little pockets and other places. You know what I mean? And now we're at a point where Drake is the biggest rapper in the world, and so on and so forth. So, you have big rappers in Pittsburgh, and, So I think as that continues to break down, then that becomes less of my tagline, you know what I mean? And I think that's already starting to happen.
As a Canadian and Kenyan rapper, do you think that there's more room for an international perspective on the hip-hop scene in general?
Yeah, as I said, hip-hop is spread globally quite quickly because it's a music that lends itself well to a certain kind of expression that you find everywhere, pockets all over the world, because of the way that it's direct and frank, it lends itself to expressing certain feelings easily. So people from all over the world have gravitated towards it and and expanded the parameters of the genre and put their mark on it. So yeah, and then in Canada, specifically, I think it's like really interesting because we're a young country. This is a young genre, and I think you have new cultural identities that express themselves through hip hop that are new to Canada, that are new, period. You know what I mean? Like Kanon is a Somali Canadian, and you know that is a people that came to this country very recently, like in the last 20, 30 years. My family is originally from Rwanda, and that is a new. Rwandan Canadians are a new thing. That's a new thing, period. That's a new cultural identity, and there's other examples, but these are people that are finding, you know, their voice through this music and expressing a new cultural identity, you know. So it's very exciting to see what's happening all over the world.
You've been compared to Common, and he's known as a very politically and socially conscious rapper. And how do you feel about taking on that title as well, and what responsibility do you think that entails?
I think there's responsibility whenever you're like talking to people, whenever you're asking for people's attention. There's responsibility. So I don't feel any extra pressure. For me, music has always been a vehicle to have fun as well as to like say something important. So I've always tried to keep that in my music, and so yeah. I mean, that being said, like those sort of like labels, political, socially conscious, or whatever. Other people will put that on what I do, and I don't resent that at all. There's worse things to be called, for sure. But at the same time, I don't put that label or that pressure on myself. Of course, I don't want to pigeonhole myself. So, I don't know. I've just never really felt a lot of pressure around that. If I have, it's been in a good way, you know? Like, I think responsibility is not a bad thing. It's how we all grow. It's how we all get better. It's when you're responsible for somebody or something, you know, that's a good thing. Yeah.
And I want to take us back to a single on your TSOL album called Keep Shinin', where you talk about women in particular, and I want to talk about how the potential like mainstream portrayal of women is perhaps misogynistic. And do you think that it's kind of like just harmless, or do you see a problem with it?
I see a problem, sexism is a problem, period. I see bigger problems, to be honest with you. I mean, same thing like, say, if you want to take it to the realm of race, right? You have a situation like Trayvon Martin, okay, really bad. But what's worse? That or the complexion of prison populations? You know, or like 700 kids in Chicago dying every year. You know what I mean? Like, that's the real problem of race. You know, it can manifest itself in one extreme example like Trayvon Martin, but let's keep our eye on the real, you know, like the real bulk of the problem, or the center of the problem, should I say rather. So I think sexism is the same sort of thing. You have like extreme, you know, blurred lines and all these things that cause a lot of controversy in these extreme cases, but then you see like more subtle examples that are like everyday, that are constant. I'm always amazed, like when I watch TV, for example, the kind of like sexism that just gets by, like, and I'm a dude. I'm not even particularly perceptive about sexism. You know, just coming from my perspective, my, you know, position of privilege in that space, I'm not even that perceptive, but I'm like, whoa, like how did that get over? Like, that's crazy. Yeah, all that to say, I think sexism is a problem. Is it in hip hop? Yeah, and it's everywhere else too.
Well, this year you were named the second best Canadian rapper by CBC Music. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, it was great, you know, like I'm always amazed when people take the time to listen to my music and listen to it closely, to the point where they, you know, they're really aware of it and really understand it, and then on top of that to appreciate it like that. It's great.
And what's next for Shad?
This tour till the end of November, and then maybe a couple other dates in December and Christmas time.
If you could collaborate with one living artist, who would it be?
Probably Kanye West. Definitely Kanye West.
Is there a reason why?
Yeah, I think he's tremendous. I think he's the best artist working in pop music for sure. And I think I'd love to just learn from what he does, you know, from his process. What up, this is Shad. You're watching TVM.
What's your favorite album of 2013?
Yeah, Yeezus, Daft Punk's album. What's my top two?